Welcome to God Talk. You've been listening to owl sounds, different types of owls and their sounds. I hope you're going to enjoy today's, I don't know whether to call it a program. Thank you, Oriental Bay Owl. Thank you very much. Beautiful sounds of the world. The sounds of the owls. And where does that leave us today? I could talk about politics, but I'm not going to because I'd rather talk about the topic of the day, the omen of the owl, meaning, well, let me go back to something that I'll begin with. When I was in college, which was a very long time ago, I mean undergrad, at Queens College, City University of New York, I think I entered college in 1959. I don't remember exactly. I entered at 16. I don't remember 58. And one of the courses we took was, I don't know, Philosophy 101. It was based on the University of Chicago, 100 Great Books. That's when the City University of New York was a great series of colleges for kids who couldn't afford to go to private schools. We had a great curriculum, and it was tough as nails, and it was mainly immigrant kids who were fighting like hell to get ahead, and nobody screwed around. Nobody slacked off. You just didn't get anywhere if you did. Okay? There was no basket weaving of the mind. So one of the books I read that I had to read was called Ich und Du, I and Thou, by Martin Buber, probably forgotten by now. Published in 1923, translated into English in 1937. And he was a great philosopher. It was his greatest work, Martin Buber, and it was a foundational book for many thinkers. I didn't understand the first thing about it, but I had to read it. I was thrown into this deep water of thinking. Remember, I came from a family where no one had ever gone to college, for better or for worse, and they were just hardworking, decent people. Not just, they were hardworking, decent people, not just. And I was man-child in the promised land. So there I go to this college, City University of New York. Now, I had wanted to go to a private college. My father said, we don't have the money. He said, either you're going to go to City College or not go to college. And also, I went to Queens College. Anyway, so I read I and Thou. I got so drawn into this book that I wrote this essay about what it meant. I wish I could find this essay. It was the first serious piece I had ever written. And I got an A+ on it, which was shocking for me because I didn't think I even understood the book. And then I passed it on to people when I left that year in school who used it with their names on it. You know, it became one of the most well-known passed around essays, I understand, in the history of Queens College. Many people used it under their name, but I had written it. If anyone is out there who knows this essay and can find it, I would appreciate a copy. I can't find it. But why am I mentioning this? Because I want to start slowly. Buber's work, I and Thou, says something that's very important. He says you need God in order to be, and God needs you for that which is the meaning of your life. Now, what does that mean? You need God in order to be. I certainly understand that. You need God in order to be, and God needs you for that which is the meaning of your life. So we're defined by two word pairs, I and it and I and thou. I'm not going to go into I and thou. I'm going to go into owls today. I'm going to into owls, omens, religions, and things of that nature, and what religions teach us about omens, and why most major monotheistic religions reject omens. I don't, by the way. I have a deep seated superstition in me about certain omens. I have since I'm a child. But let me go back to Buber for 1 minute before we get to the owl. You need God in order to be, amen. And God needs you for that which is the meaning of your life, amen. I'm with that, right? Okay, so now I'm going to turn off my I and thou thing, and we're going to go to the most important part of today's discussion, program, whatever you want to call it, which is Cuando el tecolote canta, el indio muere. Cuando el tecolote canta, el indio muere. Old Indian saying in Mexico that means when the owl sings, the Indian dies. To the Aztecs and Mayans, the owl was a harbinger of death and a symbol of destruction. In fact, if an Aztec heard an owl above their home or in a nearby tree, they believed that someone was going to die soon. In many Native American cultures, adults warned their children that if they didn't stay inside at night and behave, an owl might carry them away. So the eerie nighttime hooting, we've all heard it. Have you heard the hooting of an owl in your lifetime? I played some owl sounds for you at the beginning. Cultures in East Africa believe that owls brought illnesses to children, and many people in Nigeria believe that owls are possessed by witches. So owls have an eerie connotation to some. To others, it represents something else, wisdom. So let me tell you a personal story about what happened last week, on a few nights ago. Let's put it that way, since this is no longer a timely thing. YouTube is not a timely thing. It's a timeless thing. It goes up, and God knows when people can hear this. You might be hearing this 5 years from today. I don't know when you're listening to this. Some of you, of course, are listening to this right now, as I, Michael Savage, am talking about this subject with you, which is the omen of the owl. So the other night I'm working here, it was already nightfall, and the days are getting shorter, the nights are coming sooner, and I've noticed the shift rapidly this year. It's not more rapid, but it's quick out here on the West Coast. And it was 8:25 at night, and I was working at my desk where I am right now, right here. I like to work here. It's my favorite place in the world is right here. Notice I have a new on-air sign, the big one. You've seen a little one for years, but I got a new one. But I'll tell you that story another day, where that came from. I love it. I'm working. It's a quiet night. I hear nothing. I love the quietude. I can hear a ticking clock in this room. And all of a sudden, I hear a clatter and a banging, and I get like a chill up my spine. I said, oh, shit, what the hell is it? Pardon me. What is this? Is someone trying to break in my house? You know, it's like, I don't get those kind of, it's like bang and a metallic clattering. So I cautiously go out onto my deck, and I see a large owl. I have a deck right outside this office that's on San Francisco Bay, and it's got a glass panels on a glass wall where you could see through it. The owl, and beyond that, I have another deck with lights on it. The owl was blinded apparently by the lights and couldn't get off the deck. She had landed on the deck and couldn't get off the deck, so she started crashing into the glass. You've seen birds do that. And I got frightened that the bird was going to die. I didn't want this owl to die at all. I'm an animal person. I watch zoo shows like Tampa Zoo and whatnot, and I see that mainly the women. I don't know why there's no men in these zoo shows, but that's a topic for another time. But they're very sweet. They all talk to the animals. It's amazing how they talk to animals, these women in these zoo shows, how they communicate with them after they get to know them, and how tenderly they speak with these animals. And some of the weirdest looking animals on earth understand them. And I've kind of always known through my dog Teddy, then before Teddy, there was Snowy, before Snowy, there was Bandit, and before Bandit, there was Tippy. I've always had a dog. Only in the last few years, I have not had a dog because Teddy died, and I buried him on the hill. And I never wanted another dog because he was my spirit guide. I just don't want another one right now. The long and short of it is, I've always been able to communicate very well with animals. So I try to talk to the owl. I'm not into birds that well. I don't understand how to talk to a bird. I'm more into like a mammal. I can talk to a dog or a cat. I never tried a bird. I mean, I watch the pelicans. I talk to the pelicans when they fly over me. Sometimes they'll fly over me when I've been on my boat. I've seen them come right over the pilot house. I swear to God, they look right at me. And I look at them, and I always say thank God when I see pelicans fly right over me. I just say thank God. I just thank God for them. I think they're a good omen. So here's the owl crashing into the glass, and it's going to die unless I can get it off the deck. It can't get off the deck. It can't figure it out. The deck's only 4 feet, 5 feet high, but it can't figure out to fly over it because all it sees is the glass. And it probably doesn't even see the glass. All it sees is darkness. I'm trying to think what the owl sees. But it can't even see because beyond that glass is a series of dim lights on another deck. It's blinded. That's why it was banging into the glass. So I take a broom and I gently go up to it. Now remember, this owl had a 4-foot wingspan, and they can tear your eyes out with the talons and the beak. So I approached it slowly. And I try to put the broom under it. And I says, honey, don't worry. I'm not going to hurt you. I talked as low as I could. I put the broom underneath the owl's feet, and she got on the broom, but the bristles were soft, and she kept falling off. I tried it 4 or 5 times. I said, this isn't going to work. And then she got scared and would run to the end of the deck and hide behind a brass lantern that I have there. I said, this is not going to work. She's going to beat herself to death, and I'm going to have terrible responsibility for not having saved the animal. So I took the broom behind her and I started to nudge her to the left, behind some chairs, behind a sofa, because at the end of the deck, there's no lights. It's black. It's dark. And because I aimed her that way, she could see again because she could see in the dark. And suddenly she took off and opened her wings. They were enormous. And she flew off into the dark night, into the black sky. So I got a little like, okay, little spooked here. What is the symbolism of an owl? Because I've never seen an owl down here. Never. I have another place in the woods, and I see owls. I hear them, rather, up in the trees. They're tree dwellers. But I've never seen one down by the water. And I said, oh, this is an omen. This is an omen. Did it mean cuando el tecolote canta el indio muere? When the owl sings, the Indian dies. Well, I have a close relative who's been in the hospital for 5 days, so naturally I was frightened for her. And I found out the next day nothing had happened that was new. Get it? But I still started saying, what is this omen? What does it mean? And then I started to remember that in Jewish religion, Christian religion, these things are considered witchcraft, and they're sort of forbidden. If you look up are there bad omens in Christianity, the Bible clearly condemns the occult, magic, sorcery, witchcraft, astrology, and idolatry. And we're not supposed to give any credence or pay attention to superstitions. God's laws, plans, and help should be our only focus. Deuteronomy 4:19, 5:7 to 10, Deuteronomy 18:10, 2 Chronicles 33:6, Isaiah 47:13, Acts 19:19, Revelation 9:21, and 21:8. So it's there in the Bible, whether it be the original 5 books of Moses, the Old Testament, so to speak, or in the New Testament. It's the same. Deuteronomy 18:10 to 12 says, there should not be found in you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, anyone who employs divination, anyone practicing magic, anyone who looks for omens, a sorcerer, anyone binding others with a spell, anyone who consults a spirit medium or a fortune teller, all forbidden in Judaism and Christianity. Well, I'm not a biblical absolutist, by the way. As those of you who have been in my universe, Michael's universe, for years, whether it be my years writing health books or my travels in the South Pacific, where I've talked about spiritual events that occurred to me, you know I've seen another world. I've been in other worlds. Whether you all go to other worlds in your dreams, incidentally. There's one God, but many worlds. I've told you that before. Not many gods and one world. One God and many worlds, and your dreams take you to these many worlds. So when I was in Fiji, things happened to me that had me, this ordinary Queens College boy from Queens, New York, see things I would normally not have seen. So what drew me to go study folk medicine in Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Marquesas, and islands that are so far away from where I started? Why did I not stay in New York and become a dentist or an accountant or an optometrist or an ophthalmologist or an antique dealer or a pharmacist or a butcher, baker, candlestick maker? I don't know. What drew me to Hawaii to study plants? How did that happen? Chance. Chance events led me to that. But were they chance events? If I had not followed the signs and symbols of my life, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be who I am today. In other words, I wouldn't be. You talk about I and thou. I've always believed God called me to places. I followed signs and symbols. So going back to the owl, I was a little freaked out because I thought it was a harbinger of something like doom, and it could be. I don't know. It's not over yet. It was then. It doesn't mean it was that moment. So it's a very delicate time for me right now, as it is for America, as it is for the world. The world is hanging in the balance from World War III like this. The madness going on between Ukraine and Russia, Israel and Hamas, the idiots running this country who have let this happen and, in fact, throwing Coleman lighter fluid on the flames of death around the world is something to behold, to see such stupidity and incompetence and danger that we are in. So we're all feeling it in one way or another, I believe. So I'm going to pull back and pause for a moment as we just take a breath on chapter 1 of today's little lecture sermon broadcast. And we'll look at a Toby jar. Birds, symbols of birds, the falconer, very famous symbol, story. I used to collect these little Toby jars. No one does. There's something grandmother used to collect, I suppose. Royal Dalton, they're beautifully made. No one collects anything like this anymore. No one could even make anything like this anymore. But this is the falconer, the bird. Okay, I found other symbols of occult or the witchcraft in the history. This is Rip Van Winkle, done again by Royal Dalton potters. They're amazing. Look at these things. Again, the bird. See the bird? I found these in the back. And then, of course, this is not a birdie one, but we all know the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland, right? Look how beautifully this was done. These Royal Dalton Toby jars. They were made for drinking beer, I suppose. But I collect odd things in my life. I've always collected odd things from here and there, having grown up in an antique shop. And omens is what we want to talk about today. The omen. God talked the omen of the owl. Do Catholics believe in bad omens? Well, let's see. The Catechism states unequivocally that all forms of divination are to be rejected. It's recourse to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future. No good. Can Christians believe in this? Nope. I'm not supposed to believe in omens. It's spiritualism, magic, sorcery, witchcraft, astrology, idolatry. No, not good. And certainly in the Jewish Bible, as I said to you earlier, that's where this began, Deuteronomy 4:19. I could read it to you, but I don't want to bother because you can read it yourself. Or the other places in the Bible where the occult and such are pushed aside. But I still have faith in things beyond that which formal organized religion brings us. I see the world in my own way. I have been led to other places in the world through my own intuition. And one way or the other, here I am, for better or for worse. And as I am in the sands of time, the phase of sands of time that we all hope to get to, you could call it old age. I don't feel old and I don't feel age, but I understand when I was born. I was born in 1942, folks. We are talking about a guy who's 82 years old, who's had many, many life passages and had many things occur and has seen a lot of things occur that couldn't be explained in a rational manner. Let me give you one example. On one of my trips to Fiji, it must have been in 1973, I had started going collecting plants in 1970, 71. I'd go on these so-called expeditions to collect medicinal plants. And I would sit with folk healers. They would explain to me their medicinal practices, their medical practices. I would collect the plants and send the herbarium of specimens back to the dryer. Then they'd be dried. Then we send them back to the museum, and they go around the world to different museums. So in one of these places, every time I would land in VT Levo, we'd land in Nandi, of course, but we'd go to VT Levo to a rooming house before we'd go out and travel, my friend Domenico and I. And one of the years I brought a friend of mine with me, a younger guy, strong guy. He was like a really strong kid, and he was a photographer. And he came with me to photograph the expedition. I'd been doing all of it on my own with my old Nikon F. I showed you the camera, beautiful camera. I still have it. So he was going to be the photographer. He took some great. So we go there. Listen to this. And before every expedition out to the out islands to collect plants, I would go with my friend Domenico, the Fijian friend, Cora Vembao, and he would take me to a card reader, a Fijian woman, divination. I wish I had a picture. I do have a picture in my book, Secrets of Fijian Medicine. If I could put my hands on it in a few minutes, I will. I'll show you a picture from it. One of them, I have her reading cards. It's Mr. Wilcombe. She took a man's name. That was her spirit guide. But she wasn't this card reader. So we'd go to Suva in a little room, and this woman would read cards and tell us our future. She was a fortune teller, but through cards. I mean, I would take it with a grain of salt, but I felt it was like a good luck thing to go through a Fijian, right? So she deals the cards out, and I'm there, and my friend is there. We'll call him John and Domenico. And she deals the cards. She was a very shy woman. And suddenly she goes dead silent, and she doesn't say anything. She doesn't want to tell us the fortune. So I said, what's the matter? She said, no, I don't want to. So I had to encourage her. I said, please, we're here. It's okay. She said, no, I don't want to tell you. I said, what is it? So she whispers, and she says, you, Michael, your visit to the Asawas will go well, but his won't go well. I said, what do you mean won't go well? He starts to laugh. He's a strong kid. He doesn't believe in any of this crap. And she says, well, something's going to happen and he's going to get crippled. All right. So he laughs. He figures it's crap. All right. So the next day we take a bus from Suva to Nandi, and then we get on a boat. And it's a government boat that would go from island to island. And I was a plant collector, so I was permitted to go through the agriculture department to the out islands. And we land on one of the Osawa Islands, just so beautiful, soft sandy beach. The boat pulls right onto the sand. There was no surrounding reef where they found a way through the reef. And my photographer, John, jumps off the boat barefoot and starts to walk on the sand before all of us. He's so excited to be there. Who gets to be on an out island in the Fiji Islands in 1973? We're talking about long before the big hotels got built. There were no hotels on that island. Now it's a big tourist destination. So all of a sudden, by the time we unload our equipment and get on the sand and get on the beach, he's kind of moaning and holding his foot. And suddenly he's in pain. And luckily, I always carried a medical kit with me, and I had antibiotics. And by some intuition, I said, "Take this immediately." I had no idea what had happened. He took the antibiotics. We had to carry him back on the boat. We had to take the boat back to Nandi, and we had to get him to a doctor. As it turned out, he got a very serious infection from a piece of poisonous coral. This is the thing about islands you have to know. There were poisonous plants, it's poisonous coral, there were poisonous insects. So it's not paradise unless you know what you're doing, which is why I've always been fascinated by medicinal plants. Plants can heal, plants can kill. So the doctor said, had you not given him the antibiotics, he probably would have died. So I said, what do you think happened, John? He said, I stepped on a ghost. Now, I don't know what if he stepped on a ghost. It turns out that in the Out Islands, at that time, they buried their dead in the sand near the water, on the beach, near the water. I guess that's because they would be washed out to sea or something. I don't know. So he stepped on some coral. So what is the point of the story? How did she know that? How did the card reader know that this would happen to John? Tell me how. How? How could she know? How could she know? I don't have an answer for that. You can say divination is crap. It means nothing. It's occult garbage. It's what is this card reading nonsense? Fortune teller, bah. Oh, believe what you want. So that's why I tell you personally, and I'm not telling you what to believe. I know many of you have firm beliefs, and I certainly respect that. My firm belief is to believe in other people's beliefs and trust those who are believing in their beliefs and not try to change them into any other belief system. That's my belief. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's a very big world. There are many people, 5-7 billion people? I don't know how many. I lost count a while ago. People have to get through this thing called life in their own way. Some do it through a faith system, whether it be your religion or my religion, one of the monotheistic religions, but they're not the only ways through the world. Many people are atheists. Their way through the world is to believe in nothing till they get sick or old. Then suddenly you find out that there's no atheists in an ER room. You know, the old saying, there's no atheists in a foxhole. Well, I haven't met any in an ER room yet either. No one's a tough guy in an ER room when something bad happens to them. So there are other religions, you know. There are many other ways to approach life. When I say to you, the monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity follow, Islam followed Christianity. What about Buddhism? What about Hinduism? Okay, there's 5. What about Zoroastrianism, which predated the Abrahamic religions? What about Hinduism, Shinto, Shenzhou in China? Zoroastrianism predated Abrahamic religions, 8 billion people. So, you know, Judaism is wonderful for those who practice Judaism, but it's based upon Canaanite religions, they say, Ugaritic, Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Egyptian. They predate the ancient Hebrews. In other words, if you go into a religious Jewish home, you'll see a mezuzah on the wall, right? That thing that's sideways on a gate came from the Egyptians. You don't know that. Most people think it's Jewish, but it's from the Egyptians. And people don't want to hear these things. But you should know that there was something before that. Egypt predated it. A group of people, the Shasu, who worshipped a god named Yahweh in the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, nomads who later moved into Israel. Were they the beginnings of Judaism? I don't know. Did God speak only to the Jews? What about Celtic Druidism? What about the Babylonians, the pre-Abrahamic Babylonians? What about the Yazidi, who ISIS was killing? Been there a long time. Zoroastrianism predates Judaism, and its descendants, it's a dualistic religion, also the origin of heaven and hell. Zoroaster was born, they say, between 1000 to 5000 BCE, after Abraham and Moses. But all Middle Eastern pagan faiths predate Judaism. So what am I saying to you? 7 billion people on the earth. The world is in turmoil. The world is in hell right now. People fighting with each other, killing each other over a religion, killing each other over an economic belief system. That would be Marxism versus capitalism. How many wars need to be fought until mankind comes to understand that wars don't get us to where we want to go? Killing your fellow man doesn't get you where you want to go unless he's trying to kill you. So kill him first. That's a different story. But my whole purpose of these little broadcasts is to try to bring some hope and sanity to those of you who listen. And I would hope that in the days, weeks, months, years to come, if God gives me those, I can turn the flames down a little bit between people and bring people together. Instead of creating more division, create some unity. And I'm not ready to tell you what happened over the weekend because I came to a whole new world. I will give you a hint of it because I don't want to go into it right now because then you're going to want to know more about it. And I'm not ready to disclose what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a hint of what I'm going to do. So a couple of years ago, a long number of years ago in 2005, I guess that's a couple of years ago, I interviewed I interviewed Jerry Falwell, great man. And we argued over God at that time. It's a very famous broadcast, Jerry Falwell and Michael Savage. And my producer, Doug Lynn, who's recovering from an illness, he still is my friend. I asked him, could you find any reference that I made back then to the healing wheel, the 5 spokes of the wheel of man? And he went and found it within, 15 minutes. I don't know how he does it. And he said, your original idea came right after the interview with Jerry Falwell on 3/31/05. That's my birthday. You called it the meeting house of the healing wheel. And I'm going to read this to you. This is a quote of my own show from 2005, those of you who were on with me then. I may as well tell you how I see the world if you want to know one man's opinion and don't think I'm holding myself up as some expert. But in my travels around the world, I've met good people and bad people in all faiths and non-faiths. I've met good people of every race and bad people of every race. I've met good gay people and I met bad gay people. I've met good straight people and bad straight people. We know that. But I have to repeat that. But I've also seen the religion in this way. And I've said 30 years ago, I see all the world's religions as equal, by the way. Now, I know that's a shock to most of you because you think your religion is the only way. But I don't see it that way. I see all the world's religions as equal. I don't want to deny the other man's view of the world in order to have my own view of the world. I don't think it's necessary for me to say the other man isn't as complete as me because he doesn't practice take my route to God. So I said, and here's why I created this. If you imagine a wheel, and if you imagine the hub of the wheel and draw the circles from now in your head, draw a big circle in your head. Draw a big circle in your head. Now draw a little circle in the center, the hub. The inside of the wheel is the hub, and inside the hub is God. That's the center of the universe where God exists. And out of that hub, there exists spokes to hold the outside of the wheel. Each of those spokes is a religion or a belief system. There may be 5 or 6 principal religions on earth: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism. And to me, the 5 major religions of the world are the 5 spokes of the wheel of man. There are others. But all of the spokes lead to and emanate from the center, which is God. God, to and from. That's what I wrote. That's what I believed then. That's what I believe now. And having come to that over this very trying weekend with a relative in the hospital and me thinking about her and mortality and all of that stuff, I decided that I'm going to devote the rest of my life. I'm going to unify everything I've been doing in my whole life into one new organization. I could tell you what it is, but I'm not going to lead you to it because I'm not set up yet. We have to create a new website. We have to create a new entity. It's going to be called the Healing Wheel Society, based on the big God theory. And I had to write a mission statement last night, which I did. I mean, I'll tell you what it is. I've been so deeply involved with this for the last weekend, this whole weekend. Everything comes from and flows to God. The healing wheel is my concept. God is the hub. The spokes are the different religious and spiritual belief systems. No spoke of the wheel is larger than any other. All are equal, so long as they are based on one principle of God and doing goodness to others. That's the key. So I don't accept witchcraft as a religion. If they're into God and doing goodness to others, then I would say that they're one of the spokes of the healing wheel. Based upon the healing wheel concept I first formulated many years ago and discussed on several radio programs, and many of you heard it then. Many of you still remember it. And this is coming soon. And we're going to create either I'm going to incorporate all of it onto the michaelsavage.com website as a subset on that, because we have a nice following over, God, it's 25 years. Why create yet another website? I'm thinking today. Last night, I hired a young man who's a genius in AI to create a new website. But I think I've decided this morning to try and incorporate the link on michaelsavage.com. It's easier to find. There'll be a sub box called the Healing Wheel Society. And then the Healing Wheel Society is going to be the place to go to where I'm going to do all of the spiritual, religious stuff, because I'm telling you what's coming. After this election, how much more politics can you take? How many elections? How can we do this day and night? How can we listen to this bullcrap day and night? I know it's at stake. I get it. But I don't want to do it anymore. I'm after the election, and let's pray to God that the communist socialist front doesn't win. Let's pray that the hologram in a skirt doesn't win. But even if she does, I'm not going to talk about her. I'm not going to talk about politics by and large. I'm going to try to avoid it. I'm going to go, if I'm into this at all, I mean, maybe I should have retired a long time ago. But to me, there's nowhere to go. There's no such thing as retirement. There's no such thing as retirement. What do you retire from? Thinking? What does that make you? Brain dead. I want to try and bring goodness between man in the only way I can, through my broadcasts, period, through my writings. So on the Healing Wheel Society website on michaelsavage.com, my essays, my poetry, my thoughts, photography. Let's say I see a flower that inspires me one day. I'll put it up on there, link it up from there. Okay. So that's where I'm going to go, God willing, along with you. I hope you follow me, because politics has its limits. I do not envy those in the political world who have to do this after this election. I do not envy those who have to get up every day and do a TV show or a radio show about politics and make believe that they care about it anymore. I don't know how they can take it. I started not to want to do it when I was in radio. I couldn't take it toward the end. It was so redundant and limiting. So I have a wider interest area than just politics, and I hope to bring that to you as time goes on through the Healing Wheel Society, and maybe you'll want to become a member. I'm not ready to set it up, so don't go looking for it. It's not set up yet. Thank God we grabbed it last night before this broadcast. I had Karen grab the domain names for us, and I don't know where it went already. We got it last night because I knew the minute I mentioned it, someone would steal it. Ideas, by the way, are the only thing in the world. I don't know where it is. We captured a bunch of domain names. HealingWheelSociety.com, HealingWheelOrg.com. So we have the domains, and I don't have them in my hands, but here they are. I'll tell you what we got, that we're going to use one of these or all of them. No, I don't have them. Okay, so I don't have them. I have them another time. I don't know what I did. I don't lose anything. I have thousands of pages around. I never lose anything. But right now I've lost this. Okay, I'm human. But we got a bunch of domain names related to, healingwheel.org, healingwheelsociety.org, Healing Wheel. We got them all. And one of them is going to be linked up as a hyperlink on michaelsavage.com, where I'll tell you more about this as it develops. It's going to be great. I'm going to bring in different sermons. There'll be a Jewish one week, a Christian one, and Catholic, a Protestant one. We'll get a Buddhist person to do a sermon if we can. We'll get a Native American if we can, and we'll put them up for you to enjoy. It's just going to be a wonderful place to go. And I'm going to start having like meetings, dinners with speakers. I don't know. It's going to develop into something much bigger than I can even imagine myself. It'll be the Healing Wheel Society is what I'm creating. And I know many of you are going to want to follow it. And instead of me just doing these God talks alone on a Sunday for you to enjoy and think about, I hope it just provokes some thought. We'll have other people do it because, everyone has their limits. So I'll have other speakers. I don't know what I'm going to have. Maybe I'll have a poet one night. Maybe I'll have a painter one night. Maybe I'll have a zookeeper one night. Maybe I'll have a wrestler one night. Maybe I'll have a boxer one night. All the years I used to watch boxing with my dad on television, I used to be amazed to see these great, powerful fighters pray to God before the match. They'd get down on their knees in the corner in the 1950s, and they'd cross themselves and pray to God that they should be victorious. And even as a kid, I would say, they're praying to the same God, and one of them is going to get knocked out. One of them is going to be victorious. Excuse me. How does that work? I never understood that. Never understood that. But people believe. They have to have faith. Some of the most powerful, some of the strongest men I ever met are tremendous believers in God. Some are not. Some of the meanest people I know are religious. Some of the kindest people I know are atheists. So, as I say, with 7 billion people, you can't overly generalize, incidentally. And I think that concludes today's sermon. I mean, I could read from the Old Testament to conclude a passage from one of those pieces I mentioned. I thought instead I would read from my book called God, Faith, and Reason, the last 2 pages. I thought they were good. I found them last night. I don't read my own books, but there's 1 page at the end. By the way, this book will probably be my most important work. Of all of the 30 books I've written, this and Secrets of Fijian Medicine, maybe Healing Children Naturally, I would say this book will outlive all of them. So in the back of this book, God, Faith, and Reason, I quote Ecclesiastes first. And the dust returneth to the earth as it was, and the spirit returneth unto God who gave it. Ecclesiastes 12:7. And then I write this in the back of the book, God is everywhere. Please bear with me as I read this to you. God is not linear. God is infinite. Envision the Milky Way. All the stars, all the universes, all the pebbles, every grain of sand, all the crawling insects. God created all things big and small. How we approach the Creator defines us. Those who accept Jesus as the Son of God call themselves Christians. Those who bow to Allah are called Muslims. Jews worship the single entity they call God. What of Hindus who worship not God but fantastic entities? And Buddhists who read their poetry of life and bow down to an idol? What do we say of the many who worship the Great Spirit? How do we define those who don't believe in an all-powerful God, but may spend their conscious minutes pondering the stars and planets, the movements of celestial bodies, the quarks and sparks of dying stars millions of light years away, or those who argue over causality, the physicists and scientists who say there is no God except for rational thought and electrical impulses that die when our bodies no longer emit signs of life? Are they not seeking the answer to this ancient riddle? As Joel's friends said at the funeral, we never know where we're going to die, and we certainly don't know what comes next. In the meantime, we can look for the presence of God even here, amid all the ills of the world. In the end, the search to find God is the finding itself. I'm Michael Savage. Blessed be God. May God save all of us. May God bring prosperity and health to each of you. May God save us from the politicians. And may God save America for future generations. I thank you so much for being with us today, being with me. I'm not into I and thou. It's me, me, myself, and I. There's no three I's, it's just me. I thank you for being here. I thank you for today. Thank you for yesterday. And I hope to thank you for tomorrow. Again, this is a commercial venture in a way. I do it for free. I'm glad you can enjoy it commercial free. All I ask you to do is hit the like button and subscribe, but I really want you to spread it to 5 different people. I need to broaden the message quickly. Thank you for being here. Hope to see you soon. What do we have coming up this week? Big stuff this week. Well, you have the God Talk now. That's Sunday today. And Tuesday to talk politics is the big debate. I'm going to do a live blow-by-blow account. I'll watch the TV over there and comment over here. I know you're going to enjoy that one. And then we'll repurpose that for a podcast on Wednesday with additional elements. Thanks for being here. Go to michaelsavage.com. But of all things, go to my podcast because that keeps the wheels turning. It employs some people. I want them to be employed. Okay, thank you very much. Now we have what? A long day ahead of me. I have a long day's journey in tonight. How about you? You gonna have a good time today? I hope you do. I'm going to have another long day's journey in tonight, but I take those long days journey in tonight and I try not to go off the rails and I try to devote them to something of meaning because time is precious. Thanks again for being with me and for the friends on here today. And